Before I introduce Tom, who's going to be really herding the cats and setting the rules of debate, the rules of engagement, I really want to just stress how important it is that we have audience participation. This is a robust debate. It will be a robust debate, but our brave debaters need your support and feedback, and that should be manifested in whooping and clapping and general enthusiasm. So be in the spirit. So the idea tonight is to have theater, but with substance. And you are a critical part of that cocktail. So please play your role. So with that, I'm going to introduce 3 times Pulitzer Prize winning Tom Friedman, who will run through how it's going to work this evening. Give it up for Tom.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about. So welcome, everybody. First, I'm going to explain the rules tonight. And we're going to have the question of the night is the Metaverse the opiate of the masses? And we have 2 expert debating teams on the for and against side. The way it's going to work, we're going to start with the against. We're going to have each member of the team will argue their case. First we have against, then for, and then against, for, and then against. We'll go through the 6 players, each doing the for and against. Then each person will get exactly 2.5 minutes to make their case. And if it strikes you as a little extreme in their position, that's okay. It's okay. It's to highlight basically these issues to enable you to choose which you think. Now, after the first round of debates, we have brought 3 expert judges in. We've actually scoured the world, and for the most intelligent expert judges you could possibly have. They're actually not going to judge, but they're going to comment, maybe give you a little feel for who they think is best, and also maybe give some hints to the 2 players. Then we'll invite them up for a final round. Each team can send 1 or 2 players up to make their final case. And then we will employ a very, very sophisticated New York Times AI system to decide who wins. We will ask you to vote and to clap for the winning team, and Stephen, Sophie, and I will decide who's louder, okay? And if that isn't artificial intelligence, I don't know what is, okay? So the Metaverse, I mean, we all know the Metaverse is an extension of the internet that allows you to basically have a much more immersive experience. You can enter there with glasses that will take you into augmented reality. You can enter there as an avatar. And as I think about this issue, I mean, I think I woke up this morning and thought, for or against. I mean, wait a minute. Technology was designed, I thought, was actually to improve human connections between one another and human connections with nature. Why in the world would I want to go into a metaverse with technology? It was supposed to enhance connections to people. But then I rolled over and I thought, whoa, well, wait a minute. I can go in there and I can suddenly go in as an avatar, present myself as, I could be Shakespeare, I could be Hamlet, I could do all kinds of things, see the world through their eyes, and I could even practice surgery, all kinds of things that wouldn't be possible in the real world. And then I got out of bed and said, I can't wait to get here and see who I think has the best argument. So we're going to kick it off right now with the against team. Shep, Ogden. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for everyone for inviting us here. I'm really excited to chat about this. But first thing, whenever I think about this debate, I'm thinking about whenever I hear opium of the people, and I hear oppression of the masses. But let me tell you, whenever I read the definition of oppression, I'm reading prolonged cruelty or unjust treatment or exercise of authority. And now, as Tom did a great job, let me define the metaverse. And first, I think about it with building blocks: augmented reality, virtual reality, avatars, games, cryptocurrency, NFTs, immersive worlds. But most importantly, I think about it as a point of time. I think about it as a point of time where these building blocks are so ingrained in our day-to-day that our digital lives are becoming as important as our physical lives. For me, today, as a Gen Z 26-year-old entrepreneur, my most expensive and my most prized possessions are digital goods, and it's been like that for the majority of my life. And these building blocks are just new, better mediums for experiencing the digital world. It's like going from DOS to Windows, going from a command line to a visual interface where you point and click. But these new mediums are inherently neutral. So I'll argue that the metaverse is also a neutral medium. We have the option of using it, how we use it, when we use it, and what we do with it. So think of it like the internet today. The internet is an incredibly powerful tool that helps us get access to information. It helps us better communicate with our friends and family. And it also helps us rethink about how we work within the world. And so while there has, of course, been some negative effects that come with the internet, I'd still argue that the internet itself is neutral. And this is how we think of the metaverse. It is a neutral medium that has its pros and cons. And if anything, I'd like to really highlight the pros of this medium that will empower and level the playing field for billions of people across the world. For example, we're already seeing new digital economies come through play-to-earn games. In the midst of the pandemic, at the highest point, we saw a game called Axie Infinity come out, or a little before that, but in the Philippines, it became absolutely massive, where millions of people that lost their jobs because they could not go in person were able to go and play this game to earn their income. They were earning 2 to 10x higher than what they would have been earning had they been inside of the factories, inside of their low-paying jobs. That is really, really fascinating when you think about just how pivotal of a time this was for them and life-changing for them. And so, to recap, the metaverse is not an opium of the people, because it is a neutral medium with pros and cons, as all mediums have. And how can a neutral medium be considered oppressive or defined as cruel or unjust? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being on time. Daniela Braga from Defined.ai. That was quite a throwdown, Daniela. What do you have to say?
It's neutral at what cost? Of us escaping. Of us escaping reality. Because why? Reality is so unbearable. Well, tonight I'm going to show you why humans have been escaping their reality since the beginning of times. The expression comes from Karl Marx in 1843, and at that time it was referred to religion as an escape form from capitalism, except that opium back then was not illegal. The point I want to make is that humans are never happy with their reality, and we are always looking for something else. And there are 4 forms of reality evasion. Art is the first one. We have been using literature, theater, to feel emotions that we would not get otherwise, or that we want to repeat. We've been using religion as the second, as a sense of a higher self, of a search of the divine. Just to mention that 85% of the 7.8 billion of population are affiliated with some, or claim that are affiliated with some form of religion. Number 3, drugs, whether they are legal or illegal, whether they are for pain alleviation like opium is, and is in the base of a lot of the pharmaceuticals that we all consume still today, or they are for entertainment. The fact is 60% of Americans use and consume in a regular basis some form of drug. Finally, social media. It allows us to be someone else. It allows us to depict the perfect life that we don't like to have. It allows us to be narcissists. It allows to be our own gods. So also there, half of the population spends 2.3 hours a day in social media. So the metaverse is this super drug that combines the best ingredients of art, literature, drugs, and social media. So why wouldn't we want to medicate ourselves with the metaverse?
Wonderful, wonderful. We are off to the races. Erin, McDannald, and Nicole, you want to take your positions? Erin, come on up.
Tanvi.
Tanvi, I'm sorry, that mixed up here. I'm sorry, Tanvi. Erin, we're to switch off now. You're going to follow up your teammate here on why it is right that it's the opiate of the masses. Go for it.
Hear, hear. Shep will have us believe, what did he say? We can use it whenever we want to use it, how we want to use it. Have you ever heard a drug addict talk about their drug use? That's exactly how it sounds. So, remember the red pill and the blue pill? Okay. When Morpheus leans over to Neo and says, do you want to know what it is? You can feel it as you're sitting in this room. You can feel it when you're switching on your TV. You can feel it when you walk down the streets of Davos. What? It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. Ooh. What truth, does Neo ask? That you are a slave, Neo, that you're born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot feel or touch or smell. Bondage. A prison of your mind. He's talking about the Matrix. Maybe the metaverse didn't exist back then. I think he's talking about the metaverse. And we will have this discussion 10 years down the road, and you will remember the red or the blue pill. He says, see it for yourself. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed, you believe whatever you want to believe. Insert in brackets here, echo chamber, narcissism, everything we were building on. You take the red pill, you stay in the wonderland, and I show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Neo leans over, and Morpheus says, remember, all I have to offer is the truth, nothing more. And this is what we're arguing for, the truth. This has been an all-noble pursuit of the history of philosophy, of the history of mankind, pursuing truth and seeing what is true, what is truthful. And isn't taking the blue pill abandoning that path? Isn't the blue pill just giving up on this pursuit? And I'm even more worried that we will not, once we enter the metaverse, even have this choice to take the red or the blue pill. So when you're taking your vote tonight, are you looking forward to a world where you're enslaved, attached to your credit card, buying NFTs in the metaverse? Ask yourself that question.
Whoa. That was a throwdown. Tanvi. Bondage. Blue pill. Make the case.
To answer to Daniela very quickly about the slave situation, are we not slave of the very divided world with Russia having a war in Ukraine? So we believe that we are in a slave world and we have the possibility of creating and regenerating a new world which is a lot more equal than the world we currently live in. So to answer your question, when we think of the metaverse, we imagine the dystopian story in 2045 of the famous book and movie we all have seen, The Ready Player One. And everybody has their own interpretation of what happens there. But I like to quote my favorite line. People come to the oasis for the things they can do. But they say, because of all the things they can be. It's the only place that feels like I mean anything. The metaverse is a three-dimensional web powered by virtual reality and augmented reality, we all know, but the metaverse is persistent, self-sustainable, infinite, interoperable, and real-time. It's a technology. Walking on the promenade, which we all did for the last few days here at Davos, we see the immersive experience of Facebook, we see Magic Leap, we see Apple, we see Microsoft, all having their pavilions to talk about and work on some actual real use cases, like addressing remote work challenges we all experienced during COVID and the Zoom fatigue we all felt. Healthcare professionals who can now help people across geographical boundaries, online gaming experiences, entertainment, which can be debated both ways of whether they are good or bad. Virtual tours to travel around the world without leaving your own living spaces. But most importantly, what I find my most favorite part of the metaverse is the possibility of monetization and creating a way to the creator's economy and fueling the economy of the creators, taking the middleman out. People are now buying land on the Sandbox, on the Decentraland, trying to be right next to the Snoop Dogg, Upland, and all these different places that we now are creating the new virtual world. And we, together as humanity, have the possibility of now being part and creating the governance with the DAOs, which doesn't govern the geographical boundaries of country A and country B. Bias has played an important role in our society, socioeconomic, gender, color, creed, religion. And today, we are here to where we are born determine who we are and how well are we going to do in our lives. It's the horse sense that says it is more important where the horse is running the race than winning the race itself. And if we ever have to have the word is flat, as Tom Friedman says, this is our only possibility. And it's not something that is going to happen in the future. We see the World Economic Forum devising the metaverse right here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Erin, you want to come up? And Philip Rosedale, and anyone who references one of my books gets a few extra points, I'm just saying. Do we start with, let's see.
Erin?
Erin, yeah. Erin, you start. And very, very interesting where your partner left it. Pick it up from there.
Okay. Well, I own a company that designs and implements metaverse workplaces. In onboarding organizations, we encounter a lot of resistance from people who don't have gaming experience. And my quest to answer why, I suspect is because the metaverse lacks physical connection. Science dictates that grooming and touch have been shown to stimulate the production of the body's natural opiate receptors, showing evidence of the importance of human social bonds. Hugging and other forms of touching cause your brain to release oxytocin, known as the bonding hormone. Recent evidence indicates that dysfunction of the oxytocin system could underlie the pathogenesis of heart disease and diabetes, and plays key roles in maintaining the equilibrium of the body's processes. Therefore, I argue that the human touch in its purest form is absolutely vital to human homeostasis and social bonding. From a biological perspective, if the metaverse becomes our opium, it would be detrimental to the health of the human race. The philosopher Richard Kearney writes, if we lose touch with ourselves, we lose touch with the world. No tactile connection, no resonance between self and other. Alan Lightman, a poetic physicist, writes about his experience with a young osprey taking its maiden voyage. My immediate impulse was to run for cover, he proclaimed as the birds flew toward him, but something held me to the ground. When they were within 15 to 20 feet of me, the two birds suddenly veered upward and away, but before that dazzling and frightening vertical climb, for a second we made eye contact. Words cannot convey what was exchanged between us in that instant. It was a look of connectedness, a mutual respect, of recognition that we shared the same land. It was a look that said, as clear as spoken words, we are brothers in this place. And to this day, I don't exactly understand what happened in that second, but it was a profound connection to nature. It was a feeling of wholeness. Can you imagine a sea of soulless eyes becoming your opium?
Ooh. Shep, baby, she played the Osprey card. What do you have to say?
Well, first, let me start by saying, isn't it fascinating that among all the senses that we've struggled to replicate in the metaverse, in this very thing, it has been touch that has been the one that we cannot recreate. Touch, the very thing that brings us closest together, seems to be almost unreachable in the metaverse. So perhaps this tells us, or should give us cause to be concerned about where we're going. So let me also begin by strongly agreeing with my colleague that technology like fire is neutral. It's a neutral substrate. This is certainly true. It's neither good or bad, neither opiate nor stimulant, neither red nor blue. It's our choice, our use, our decisions of design and use that instead sets the balance here. We have certainly seen virtual worlds that demonstrate a tremendous potential, the virtual worlds of history, the one that I've worked on, that demonstrate a tremendous potential for good, for repairing disabilities, for example, for reducing inequities, opportunities for immense amounts of income. We've already seen these things happening in worlds. So why then would I say that it's to be the opiate of the masses? And yet, or but yet, people, most people, have not gone to these earliest virtual worlds. They prefer entertainment rather than challenge. They prefer relaxation and escape to learning and progress. Both platforms and people will fall prey to the temptation to offer up not the red, but the blue pill, drowning us in a sea of negative opportunities as the true metaverse. Going back to Morpheus and the two pills, we can ask the question, in the metaverse, what is the red pill? What does it mean to take the red pill, if not to actually take the headset off? What it means is to get closer to each other, to come together, to use technology to bring us together. And although this is very much within possibilities, I strongly argue that the first thing we will see as humans is to fall prey instead to the instinct, the blue pill, to take us apart from each other. Thank you.
Wow. Red pill, blue pill, bondage, we have it all. Can we call the judges up now to give their reaction? We're going to do it just in the order that is listed here, but I'm going to begin with my colleague, Rebecca Blumenstein, who is the Deputy Managing Editor of the New York Times. Rebecca. And they're not going to judge, really, but they're going to give their reactions and advice. Okay.
Do you all want to come up?
Yeah, I'll come up at the same time, yeah.
Well, this was kind of a tough one, and I think we are as judges here, and I'm here with Peggy Johnson and Kai-Fu Lee. They are true experts, but I would say, to be honest, that I think both sides need to work on their story as the reigning journalist in the room.
She's not the managing editor of the New York Times for nothing. Okay.
I found myself kind of in this for and against sort of wave with both sides that kind of confused me. I would say it was a little stumped, starting with the against. Seb, when the neutrality argument was quite powerful, but neutrality isn't really for or against. It kind of left me a little short. I do think, though, that that Erin and the touch and the hugging and the fact that if we lose touch with ourselves, we lose touch with each other in truth, that was, to me, very compelling, and felt that it was the one moment when we kind of stepped out of this intellectual argument and actually talked about the consequences of stepping into the metaverse and stepping into the reality if we really take that pill that we are going to be detaching ourselves from the real world. So although I think the against started off like a little too neutral, I felt that Erin really delivered a slam at the end. On the pro side, though, I would have to say, and Phil, I think you got the classy award in my book. You conceded the neutral fire distinction. You also conceded, as someone who works on this technology, that touch is something that you're having trouble with, and I thought that. The other presenters basically were really powerful, really strong, talking especially the red pill, blue pill, I think is exactly where we are in this. And so I think that the argument itself on the pro side had me, especially with the red pill, blue pill, it just was this thing that I will remember in my mind when I'm making my decision. It crystallized it perfectly.
Thank you, Rebecca. Peggy, you want to go, and then we'll let Kai-Fu back clean up.
Okay, so I liked what Shep said about it being a tool. I think to go back to my former company, Microsoft, Brad Smith, the president, wrote a book, Tool or Weapon. And I think any technology can be a tool or a weapon. A hammer is a tool or a weapon. And we've seen that, but do we get rid of all the hammers because of something that a few people might have done that was damaging with a hammer? I don't think so. So I really liked what Shep said. I think it can be democratizing. It can be life-changing for people. And we have to remember that. This is about innovation, and we're early stages in this technology. And I think we've learned from technologies how poorly they can go. Kai-Fu knows a lot about that, talking about AI, and that's a tool as well. But do we want to throw these out before we have a chance to do good for the world with these technologies? And I think the metaverse can do a lot of good. I think Daniela, I liked what Daniela said about art, religion, drugs, social media, all of those things. There's a lot of things we can say about each of those mediums, but there's a lot of good in them, and there can be a lot of bad. And so I think you actually made a good point on that, and actually just having this conversation and hearing both sides has crystallized some things for me, because I do make a device, and so I walked up here a little biased, but I liked what you said, Daniela. And then last, Tanvi, you talked about we have the possibility of creating governance. So as we go forward in the early stages of this technology, we can embrace that. We can pull from what we learned in the technologies that went awry and put that to good use here. So I liked what you said there. And let's not have a flat world. There you go, Tom.
Kai-Fu.
Okay, well, this was incredibly entertaining. It reminds me of a fun version of Oxford Union debate. And both sides presented a lot of interesting examples. I love the pills analogy, the neutral platform, and I think all of those are excellent points. But actually, I want to challenge something even more than Rebecca. I think both sides needed to have started from a more clear definition. Right? What is metaverse? To me, yes, it is. I certainly am a believer that technologies are neutral themselves, but I also believe technologies tend to create application of a certain type. So I've actually worked on AR/VR in 1995, and what we noticed was, while it was a failure, what we noticed was that the most natural application is entertainment. It is indisputable that 3D graphics going to immersive world will be an entertainment application worth tremendous amount of money and potentially entertainment to people. Other may work as well, but the first one will be entertainment. And that's the one that is addictive. So I would like to think about rephrasing the question as a neutral technology platform that will lead to a surely addictive gaming plus platform that will cause people to be addicted like they are to opium, not opium in an oppressive way, but opium in the sense that makers of the product will stand to gain at the expense of the users who become addicted and can't pull themselves out. And I think and also I think any technology needs to be evaluated in the context of the environment and society we live in. I think today we live in an environment with increasing social unrest, opposing views, and as well as a future society where AI and robotics and other technology will replace people's jobs. All of these will drive people to not like the current reality, want to move to a virtual reality. So my question to you is, in that definition of opium and metaverse, how do we prevent people from going into addiction in light of the society's problems? Thank you.
That was really terrific. Three really good, sharp critiques, I think. Now, my colleague Stephen's going to come. We're going to show a little video and give the two teams a couple minutes to caucus, decide if one or two of you want to do the rebuttal.
So we're going to show a very short sizzle reel whilst they're huddling. This is a sizzle reel of the New York Times Climate Hub, which was an event we convened in Glasgow at COP26. It was 9 days of live journalism. I think we convened over 94 different events. This is a precursor for what we're going to be doing more of this year. There is no debate about climate change. It is a fact, and we are on it at the New York Times. So I just want to show this film. Thank you.
Welcome to the New York Times Climate Hub. Over the next few days, we're going to be welcoming business leaders, thought leaders, innovators, and scientists to come work together and discuss how to make actionable climate solutions.
The ambition of this kaleidoscopic program is underpinned by our mission, which is to help people seek the truth and understand the world.
I think the whole world needs to challenge itself. Science is telling us we are running out of time.
The time for talk is over now.
It's not a question of the money, it's not a question of the opportunity. It's a question of getting the speed and scale in place so that we avoid a climate emergency.
We don't want empty promises, we want real change and real things to happen.
I think we really have to truly want it, truly believe in it, stop greenwashing.
You can't just have green for some. You got to have green for all.
With the ability to accurately measure how many emissions are coming from what location and then determine who is responsible for those emissions, that changes everything.
I've never felt the kind of energy that we feel here right now.
Indigenous peoples, we are not a victim. We are a solutions. We are the future.
I think it's so important that young people let their voices be heard at COP26.
What do we want?
When we have a view of what we actually want, we realize that we want things to change.
The power truly lies within the people, and we need to realize that.
Young women are disproportionately impacted by climate crisis.
We are the new leaders. We don't have to ask for agency. In the end, we are all facing the same storm, and the climate crisis at some point it will affect all of us.
To see how the climate movement is this large force really gives me hope.
Wow. Here's a scoop. Only the New York Times could do that. And if you're not reading the New York Times, we know who you are. Okay. All right, come on up. Are you all ready? The for team is going to go first. The against team will get the rebuttal, and then we will revert to our AI. Get that in your way. Nicole?
Yes. Okay. So really, Kai Fu Lee said it all. Technology is neutral, but its application is sinister. Let me explain why. And I really like this. I really like this analogy of market dynamics and how do we think about it. Let's go back and all remember as economists and business leaders, how do the market dynamics of drug markets work? Who are the consumers? Who are the producers? And who are the dealers in those systems? And then I go back to remind you very friendly of our colleague's argument about it being, Tanvi, about it being basically enabling the creator's economy, right? When we look at these market structures, right, we see that we are made to believe that basically everybody can contribute to this and everybody can really offer a solution, offer a great product in the metaverse. But I've also heard talk of, what are they called? Axie Infinity? And a quote in this context I found really striking. When you call cryptocurrencies a Ponzi scheme, you're giving Ponzi schemes a bad name. Because in all statistical likelihood, the models we have seen deployed on the metaverse have been exploitative and have left people with resources stolen from them in the end. And at least in the Ponzi scheme, a few people go to prison at some point after long debates. So I think the main point here is, yes, technology is neutral, but if we're already saying it all goes to entertainment, and we're then thinking everybody is going to be entertained in the metaverse, is that really fixing our problem? Are we really looking forward to a world where we are numbed by entertainment in a better, more immersive world? Don't we prefer to fix these problems in the real world?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Team against.
All right, Nicole, that was great. It's unfortunate we didn't get to meet yesterday. I got to meet Nicole's co-founder yesterday and one of her good friends from Zurich that also study AI, and the conversation that we had was very different. It was very different, and it was very much around how they're looking into the future and how the future is going to be a world that this is just meant to enhance our experience. Like, it's meant to be something that is supposed to make our lives better. And that was just really like telling to me, like that type of conversation we had yesterday about how AR is something that's supposed to get us out into the world, not just keep us caged inside of a headset. Kaifu, I really loved what you said and how you mentioned it as well, how you were talking about like, how do we get people out? The big difference right now is like we're getting people, what people are doing today in games, there is no benefit outside of entertainment. But what the world is working towards right now with these new metaverses is meant to be a place where the players actually have ownership and they can actually earn within these economies. Meaning that their time is no longer just a trap and their time is no longer just something that they're stuck in, but it could be something that could replace their job, as to the Axie Infinity example earlier, that was beneficial during the pandemic, not so much this year. But that is a good example of where this world is headed.
So I'd like to add to the topic of calling everything a Ponzi scheme. So all that's happening on the Congress Hall when people are talking CBDCs and blockchain and cryptocurrencies isn't a Ponzi scheme. Otherwise, we are all sitting on a Ponzi scheme right here. So specific areas where, I come from the financial industry, and the amount of financial crime that happens in the real world with real fiat money is far greater than it is happening in the crypto world. And it's a nascent industry, it's gonna grow, and we have to give it a chance to grow. I famously believe that Metaverse is in its making. It's a place where the limits of reality are our own imagination. You can do anything and go anywhere. And that's a possibility we all have in front of us. So let's make it happen today. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Well, we've come to the moment you've come for. Let's go back and remember the question. The metaverse is the opium of the masses. Our team against is telling you it's going to supercharge opportunity. Our team for is telling you it's going to supercharge the worst habits and instincts and addictions of human beings. Now is your chance to vote. We'll start first with the question. Do you believe, having heard everything you've heard here today, that the metaverse is the opium of the masses? If you do, I'm going to ask you, just hold on one sec to clap. If you don't, hold your hands, and then we'll pose the other question. So the question is, do you believe the metaverse is the opium of the masses? Do you believe the metaverse is not the opium of the masses? Judges. Stephen. Rematch. It was close, but I'm... Another check? Okay. Now you've all sort of gotten your exercise, you understand where each team is. I'm going to go back and rephrase this question one more time, and one more time only. Do you believe the metaverse is the opium of the masses? Do you believe the metaverse is not the opium of the masses? I think we're going to have to call it a draw. Thank you all for coming. Stephen, you want to close?
So much. Could you please just give it up to the very, very articulate and brave debaters. It is not an easy thing to get up and express yourself in that way, and I think they did a great job, so please thank them here. And before we close, I'd just like to invite Abdulrahman Subaie from the Qatar Debate Foundation, part of the foundation, to close. You're there. Sorry, sir. Thank you.
Esteemed guests, welcome back to in-person events, and thank you for joining us today. First, I would like to start by repeating how much we value our collaboration with the New York Times, so much that this is our third time, our third event with them. The first one was in January 2020 here in Davos, where we discussed regulating big tech. And then, as you know, in January 2020, the news came out about COVID, and you all know the rest of the story. Despite all of the uncertainty, we continued working with our friends at the New York Times. We organized a virtual debate to discuss netting zero. And now, today, we are back again for an in-person event in company of these amazing debaters. We really enjoyed the debate, and we thank you all. And for Qatar debate, we promise to continue enriching dialogue and empowering minds. And Qatar debate today is a reliable partner for governments, academia, private sectors, in their efforts in satisfying their stakeholders. And finally, I would like to thank you all for showing up tonight, and I hope you enjoyed the debate. Thank you all.
This is the one Davos event that finishes on time, and I'm pleased to say that we've achieved that again this year. Thank you very much. We believe in debate at the New York Times and gathering a broad perspective of opinions, and this is really a manifestation of that. Thank you very much for your participation. Have a great evening. Thank you.